Hello, my fellow chatterers and middle grade book lovers, and anyone else who's popped in because you're curious about what this is or you have got a bit lost. Welcome, everyone. I'm Chatty, and this is my channel, Chatty's Mad Chatter, where I'm going to be chatting away madly about the Middle Grade Readers Choice for 2023. So, this is where we've looked at books that have been published over 2023 that are middle grade books and which ones have been highly anticipated and hyped and people are excited to read, and we have managed to finally narrow it down to a winner, which I will be announcing within this video. This is all very exciting. So if you're not sure, this came about because of the failure to have a middle grade category in the Goodreads Choice Awards, and just wanting to appreciate some wonderful middle grade that should have been published this year. If you want to sort of like know about the long list and how I came up with all of that, then I will link you to the video where I talk about what the long list is, which is here. So go and have a look about that. And in this video, I'm just going to be, first of all, thanking everyone who has been excited about this, who has voted and has helped me narrow the process down. I do feel I've been doing a lot of, and guys, I need your opinion again and again and again. Please vote again so we can finally get down to the winning spot. So thank you so much for bearing with me and being responsive, because I could not have done this by myself. I particularly want to thank all the people who are in the Middle Grade Mad Chat Discord. It's so lovely to see conversations about middle grade books in there. I love middle grade books. I love being able to talk about middle grade books. And it's really nice to meet so many people who feel the same, and all the different reading tastes that people have on there. So thank you so much. We've been doing a lot of voting in the Discord and discussions of hidden gems. And actually in the top 10, there were 3 of the 5 hidden gems out of the 20 that made it in there. So this is all very exciting. Sorry, I need more tea. I've not really drunk a lot of tea today. That is good. So let's go through the list. I have I have compiled all of the data that I've got, all the different votes we've had at the various different points, and I'm going to give you a rundown of the 10th places. So this actually involves the whole long list because there were a few ties. So in 10th place, sorry, I'm lisping. In 10th place, we have Dear Mothman. I've just realised I've written all the titles down and totally forgotten who are all the authors, but all of the books will be in the description, so you can click those, you can see the author, you can find the synopsis for all of the books, so please do that. And I do have that in when I talk about my actual long list. I do have all the author information. Obviously those notes got recycled, so here we are. Anyway, enough waffle. Dear Mothman is a novel in verse, and this was actually one of the books that was in my top 10. I do really want to read this book. It is about a trans boy who has lost one of his best friends who died in a car accident, and it's about him dealing with grief and kind of moving on for that. And one way of doing it is by writing to this character Mothman, and it sounds like a really heartwarming story. So that was originally in my personal top 10, but it's come out as 10th place. But that is definitely a book that I do personally want to be reading at some point. So looking forward to that. In 9th place, we have 2 books. So we have What Happened to Rachel Riley, which is a contemporary book where a girl starts a new school, and one of the girls in the school who used to be really, really popular is now treated like a pariah. So we don't know what happened, and the new girl wants to find out what happened to Rachel Riley. I have to say, I am quite curious. I do want to know what happened to Rachel Riley. This does sound like an interesting one, and if it appeared in my library, I would definitely pick it up and read it. I don't know if it's one that I'm specifically going to go out of my way to go and find. So as I was saying, I would pick it up if I saw it in a library, but I'm not as excited to kind of like go out and buy it or get hold of it, just because contemporary is not necessarily my kind of first genre with middle grade that I want to go and find, and I'm not as interested in this one as I am in other ones. The next, number 9, so the second book we have at number 9 is The Girl from Earth's End. This was one of the hidden gems that was suggested in the Discord chat, and people voted in this one to be one of our 5 hidden gems. This was on my my top 10. So The Girl from Earth's End tells a tale of a girl who lives with her 2 dads, and one of her dads is really ill. So she's really interested in nature and plants and like the healing properties. So she knows there is a cure for her dad's illness. So she goes looking for this particular plant and comes across this like botanical school, and that's where she's going to find this plant. So she goes in to get the plant and help her dad, but as she's there she starts to make friends with some other people, and it sounds like the whole host of interesting characters in this school, and I just think it sounds like a really exciting story. So then we have 3 books in 8th place. Okay, and they are Nick Blake and the Remarkables, The Manifesto Prophecy, Jamie, and Camp Sylvania. So Nick Blake and the Remarkables, The Manifesto Prophecy is a fantasy book, and this I was definitely on my top 10 because this is a book that I actually own. I haven't owned it yet. It is under my bed, but I am very excited about this one. It's fantasy. I am always excited about fantasy. It's written by Angie Thomas, and I've loved her YA stuff, so I'm keen to read something that she's written middle grade wise. Nick Blake wants to be is it a manifest? I think it's called a manifester, like a magician type person, just like her dad. But then her dad is accused of something, so she needs to clear his name. So that's what her and her friend do, and they're also looking for this magical artifact as well. So it sounds like a really kind of like fun adventure quest. Then we have Jamie. This was another hidden gem that was voted in. Jamie is a contemporary, but I am really interested in this one, and this was also in my top 10. In fact, both Nick Blake and Jamie were actually in my top 5 before we cut it down and got our final 10. So Jamie is a story about a non-binary child who is living in their small town, possibly in the UK with their friends, and they've just finished year 6, which is the final year of primary school when you move then to secondary school. But where they live, there is a boys' secondary school and there is a girls' secondary school, and Jamie is non-binary, so they don't know where they should go, and they start to raise awareness of this, and then it turns into a protest. And I've heard really wonderful things about this book. I again was very excited about this book and got it as soon as it came out because I thought this sounds like such an interesting story that I really wanted to read. We then had Camp Sylvania, which it was only after I finished filming the long list video that the pun suddenly clicked in my head, and I feel so stupid for not realizing it before. But obviously it's a pun on Transylvania, Camp Sylvania. It's like, yes, very clever. So we have a protagonist in here who wanted to go to an arts and crafts camp, but ends up being sent to a fad camp. And there are some very suspicious, very skinny, pale, only kind of coming out at night people who run the camp. And they start to be scared of things that are going on in the woods, and campers disappearing. So there is definitely a kind of vampiric feel to this. So this is a middle grade horror. And it does sound like a lot of fun. It didn't quite make my top 10 just because there are so many other books that are kind of more my genre and horror is not. But as things go, I would pick up this horror to read, and I may feel in the mood for this kind of more around spooky season. I do think it sounds like a really fun book, so I'm definitely interested in this one. Okay, we now have 4 books in 7th place. I know, it's a very tight list. So those 4 books are Simon Sort of Says, which is a contemporary, The Firefly Summer, also a contemporary, The Probability About Everything, another contemporary, and Whale Done, which is a mystery. So Simon Sort of Says it tells the story of Simon, who was the only survivor of a school shooting, and so they move town where he wants to have a new start as just Simon, without having to be known as the survivor. So it sounds like this is like quite a heavy topic book, but it sounds like it'd be very warm and heartfelt. It didn't make my top 10 just because some of the other books excited me more. But again, if I did see it in the library, I would pick it up and read it if I was in the right headspace, because it feels like you need to be in the right headspace for it. And then you have The Firefly Summer, which is sort of about families. The protagonist goes to she's lived with her dad and her stepmom and is invited to go and meet her mum's family and spend the summer there camping, and they're a very outgoing family. So it's about the protagonist kind of trying to fit in and with all of that. Again, didn't make my top 10 just because contemporary is not, I don't find myself drawn to it as much as I do other genres. The Probability of Everything. This one, despite it being, this is kind of a contemporary with a bit of a sci-fi element. It's got a sort of like a end of the world type of feeling to this one. So our protagonist sounds very interesting. She's really interested in science and like wanting to know the answers to everything, and like lots of maths and figures. And an asteroid is due to hit the Earth in 4 days. I think something's happened to the family and they're dealing with a lot of grief. So I think it's kind of looking at family and the important things in your life. So it sounds like there's quite intense, like quite high stakes in what is going on here. And it sounds like it's quite an emotional book. So that was the only reason it didn't quite make it into my top 10, because originally I was really interested in it. But when I was voting, I was just like, actually, I feel like I don't know if I can cope with that right now. So it was very much a mood thing. But I may well pick this up in the future. I do think it sounds really interesting. And then Whale Done, I think it's the 8th book in the Jungle Fun series, which is a series of like mystery solving books, and there's an animal link in all of them. In this one, I believe you're following the same characters, and the person who's like a detective or an amateur detective is on holiday, and a dead whale washes up on the beach and then explodes. And then the characters are kind of involved in solving some sort of like mystery and things that are going on there. Again, this one didn't appeal to me just because I think it's book number 8 in the series, and I don't think the protagonists are children. I think they are like adults, but done in a kind of like child-friendly, zany way, and it just doesn't sound like something that would necessarily suit my reading tastes. We are now on to the shortlist books. So coming in at number 6 for the shortlist is Falling Out of Time, which is a sci-fi thriller. This one, again, didn't quite make my top 10, but it was really close. I do think the premise of this sounds really interesting. So it is a utopia where you have everything you want, and you have Insta closets that give you new clothes every day, and Insta ovens that give you new food every day, and humanity solved all its problems. We're in like way into the future. But then our protagonist receives a note saying, if you want to know what things are really like, get in touch with me. So that sounds very ominous and creaky, and it sounds like there's a dark side behind all of this utopian, as there often is. So I think that's a really interesting premise. Pardon me, sorry, I just burped. Okay, we are now on to the top 5, which is very exciting, and it just shows just how close everything is here. And there are some really brilliant books on this list, so I'm going to have some more tea and get ready to chat more. Okay, at number 5 we have 4 books. We have The Swifts, we have which is a mystery book. We have Skanda and the Phantom Rider, which is a fantasy book. The Grace of Wild Things, which is a fantasy book, and Saving Neverland, which is a fantasy book. So The Swifts and The Grace of Wild Things were on my top 10. I was very interested in both. The Swifts I kind of warmed up to because, again, mystery is not necessarily something I read a lot, but recently I have been reading a lot of mysteries, and this one involves a lot of wordplay. So the family of the main character, they all have a family dictionary that all the children are kind of brought towards to be named, and they are given a definition to live up to. And our protagonist is named Shenanigan. So she is, has to live up to this troublemaker idea, but she doesn't feel that's what's going to define her. And then when there's a murder at the family reunion, she wants to solve the mystery and feels that she has the skills to be a detective, even if everyone just expects her to be a mischief maker. So I really like that premise of, you know, choosing your own path and defying other people's expectations. And I love that idea of the kids are named with a dictionary, and there's like a sacred family dictionary. It just sounds hilarious. So I am really interested in that one. Skanda and the Phantom Rider is a very popular fantasy series. This is a second book, and this is about killer unicorns. And the tagline in the book is that unicorns are not from fairy tales, they're from nightmares. And in this world, the unicorns will let you ride them if you hatch them, and all Skanda wants to do is hatch his own unicorn. So this is the second book, so I'm presuming all of that was dealt with in the first, and then we've kind of gone on this journey from that. And this is very popular. Lots of people really do seem to like this. I don't know why, but I haven't felt inclined to pick it up. And I don't know why that is, because as a fantasy reader, as a middle grade fantasy reader, I feel I should be, but I'm currently not. So I'm not sure what that is, but but there we go. We then have The Grace of Wild Things. This was in my top 10, and it was also in my, it was one of the other, the final books in my top 5. So my top 5 was Nick Blake of the Radicals and Jamie, and then I haven't got to those other last 3 books yet, but the final 3 books are all the ones that I voted for within the shortlist. I allowed everyone to have 3 votes. So one of my votes went to The Grace of Wild Things. This is by, I do know the author of this one, this is by Heather Fawcett, who she's currently really well known for the Encyclopedia of Fairy, Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I haven't read that one, but I have read some of her YA books, which was, she did a duology, Even the Darker Stars, and I really enjoyed that, and I have heard good things about some of her other middle grade books. This is a reimagining of Anne of Green Gables, so just with added magic. So our protagonist Grace is at an orphanage. The only thing she's really good at is magic, and she's not being adopted, so she decides to run away, and she offers herself as an apprentice to the witch that lives in the woods. And she thinks, well, she can't be as bad as people say she is, but she is. But despite that, it sounds like they start to build a bond together. So I'm feeling we have Sunshine Grace melting the heart of the cranky older lady, and then kind of getting a family bond is what I feel the book story is going to go, and I feel that's the Anne of Green Gables link. But I just think it sounds quite adorable. I love a kind of found family thing. I love an interesting character arc. I love a story about an orphan, so and magic and a witch in the woods. So all of those things are appealing to me. Plus, I've enjoyed Heather Fawcett's writing before, so I am very interested in this one. And the final one at in the 5th place is Saving Neverland by Abby Elphinstone. And this was one of the hidden gems that was voted into our top 20. And this is like a continuation of the Peter Pan story. So we have a new family that have moved into the Darling's house. We have Martha and Scruff, and a terrible thing happens that Martha feels really bad about, where Scruff almost, I think Scruff kind of almost died because of what had happened. And then they managed to find some gold pixie dust in a drawer somewhere, and then they go off to Neverland and help Peter Pan. So I think as well as having the Peter Pan side of it, you've also got kind of the family side of it as well, going through, and kind of Martha and Scruff's relationship. I have heard amazing things about this book. I have heard so many people really enjoying it. It's not personally appealing to me, just because I don't feel I want to revisit Neverland, so that's the reason why I'm not particularly excited about this one, but I do love Abby Elphinstone and her writing. So we are now hitting we're place number 4, but this is the official top 5 books in there. So in joint 4th place we have Hammer of the Jungle of Memories and The Witchstone Ghost. So both of these books are in 4th place. They tied, and both of these books were hidden gems. So these were they were not read by more than 500 people. They were nominated by people in the Discord, and they won the votes of the hidden gems to make it into the top 20. So both fantasy, but both kind of quite different fantasy. So the Witchstone Ghost has got more of a supernatural fantasy. Our protagonist can see ghosts, but when her father drowns, she can't see his ghost. So she goes, so because of something in his will, the whole family relocate to this island, and there's some mysterious stuff happening on the island, and they've got to work out the secrets and kind of like why they've been sent there. So all of that sounds really cool. I do enjoy stories with ghosts. I do enjoy family secrets. So I think this sounds like a really, really fun book. And yeah, and this was also on my top 10 list. Hammer and the Jungle of Memories was on my top 10. It was in my top 5, and it was one of the books I voted for. So Hammer and the Jungle of Memories is a Malaysian inspired a Red Riding Hood retelling. So we have our character Hamra, who it's her 13th birthday and everyone has forgotten about it. So she's really, really angry, and she's just told to kind of carry out these chores that she always needs to do. And so she goes off into the jungle, but she's so angry she forgets all of the rules of the jungle, and she breaks the rules. And then she is then facing the consequence and is haunted in her dreams by a tiger that threatens her family. So she's got to go back into the forest to go and set into the jungle and go and set everything right. And it explores being courageous. I think the tagline is the greatest magic of all is courage, and like looking after your family, and sort of like stepping up, I think, is one of the things in there. So I think that sounds awesome. I've also heard really good things by this author from another book, so very excited for this one. And we're on to the top 3 now. So here we are. It is the top 3 of the Middlegrade Readers Choice. So we're ready. In 3rd place, my drum roll is pathetic. I'm very sorry. I can't add in extra noises and stuff because I can't edit my videos. You are just going to have the knee slapping sounds. But the top 3 books. In 3rd place, the bronze medal goes to Green Wild by Parry Thompson. I have actually got this book here. Parry Thompson. There we go. I've got this book here. So yes, this was in my top 10. And this is a fantasy. We follow the character of Daisy, who is looking for her ma, who's mysteriously vanished. And she travels through London, and she's being pursued, and then she flees through this doorway and comes into the magical world of Green Wild, where it's all very like amazing nature things, and it starts to have some answers that Daisy needs about what happened to her ma. A cat is mentioned in here, and I think on the front cover there is a picture of a cat around Daisy's neck. So it all sounds very magical and wonderful, and I'm excited to read that one. In place number 2, we have the silver medal goes to Impossible Creatures by Catherine Rundell. Again, another fantasy. This one has been very much celebrated by Waterstones, the big book company in the UK. And you've seen it everywhere. It's got a beautiful cover, beautiful pages. I was very tempted to get a copy of this book because of the beauty, but I restrained I restrained myself. It's like, I don't need it. I've got many books I haven't read. Do not need this one. And it has got a very kind of like classic feel, and all of the kind of write-ups on it is it's very kind of classic fantasy. It's very creature based. So our protagonist, Christopher, goes to stay with his grandfather and discovers his grandfather is a guardian of this kind of like gateway to this world where the magical creatures exist and live and are protected. But the magical doorway is starting to wear thin, and creatures kind of coming through into the normal world. So Christopher wants to go and work out why is this happening, and he teams up with a girl called Mal, who it sounds like he meets her kind of like as a chance encounter. She's on the run. She's being chased by people who want to kill her, and she's trying to find a baby griffin. So all of that sounds quite intriguing, and they go off on this quest to find out what's going on. So that does sound like a really fun book, and I will be picking it up to read because it's in the top 5. but it wasn't necessarily ones I voted for, and it wasn't in my top 10 despite it being a fantasy, just because I wasn't as gripped by it as I was about other ones. I don't feel it's necessarily doing anything new, and it just wasn't appealing to me, but I can understand its appeal. I think it sounds like it's probably a lovely book and a very cozy book and a lovely whimsical book, but for whatever reason it just wasn't personally appealing and pulling me in. So the final book, the winner, the gold medal position, goes to The Lost Library by Rebecca Stead and Wendy Moss. This is a magical realism mystery, and this sounds really good fun, and I can understand why this one has won. I understand why this is the winner, because it is appealing to book lovers. It's got the word library in the title. So a mysterious little free library turns up, and it is guarded by a large ginger cat, and there is a ghost librarian is involved. I don't know if it's involved in this lost library or if it involves somewhere else. So both of those sound fantastic. And our protagonist is called Evan, and he comes and takes 2 books from the little library, and one of those books holds kind of a secret. It kind of refers to events that have happened in his town that none of the grown-ups speak about or want to talk about. So there's a big mystery here. So he and his friend Rafe start asking questions and start unraveling it, and by doing so, it says they change not only themselves but the whole future of the town. And it says that we get points of view from both Evan and also the cat guardian and the ghost librarian as well. And there's some really lovely ways it's phrased in the blurb that it's all about the love of a good book, libraries, finding the truth. So it sounds like all of those kind of buzzwords that readers really enjoy. So I can see why this one appealed a lot. So yes, so this book was in my top 10. It was in my top 5, and I did vote for it. So I was very excited and delighted to see that this one won. So yay, there we go. That's your winner. The winner is The Lost Library. Thank you so much for watching. It's been really fun to do this, and I'm going to talk about it more in my goals for my channel, but I am hoping to do some kind of like read along of some of these books in the next year, because I think it'd be really fun to do that and see if my personal thoughts on which ones I'm going to enjoy the most are the same as what they actually are, and see if these books live up to the hype. So this will be really good fun. And let me know in the comments, have you come across any of these titles? Do you think you'd be interested in reading any of these books? And do you think we should do this again next year, and especially if Goodreads aren't doing a middle grade category again, to find out what is the most hyped book that people have been enjoying for 2024. I hope you all have a wonderful day today. I hope you enjoy either snuggling up with a good book and enjoying some peace and calm, or having a crazy time with friends and family, however you are celebrating. Happy reading, everyone.